Iowa, 2020. Now, I must say, when a child is victimized, molested, and raped at a young age, it can wear on them profoundly. When it's by a parent, a family member, a neighbor, it will stay with them from the rest of their lives. They actually have problems within their daily life forever. It's not a situation that goes away. Though it could have happened when they were 4 and 5, people will say get over it because now they're in their 30s. Sometimes it's hard for them to get over it. They have to work at it. It's a daily thing. And my heart really goes out to the ones that were victimized like this. Unfortunately, sometimes the victims become the victimizers. Joseph Smith started calling himself Josie, and he started using female pronouns to describe himself. In 2013, he wanted to be considered a female at this point in his life. He identified with trans women. I suppose at this point he was relating to himself more as a female while he was in prison. That's when he would discover himself as this trans woman. Why was he in prison, you asked? Well, he was in prison for second-degree sexual abuse involving a 3-year-old girl in 2012. Around that time, Smith was 15, and this was according to the Ohio court records. Then, in 2014, he was involved in a lascivious act with a child after being accused of raping a 10-year-old boy. Now, a report from the Sioux City Journal said Smith in 2014 received a 10-year suspended sentence and 3 years of probation. Now, for molesting and raping children, I don't think that probation was a fair enough sentence. So, in 2015, he would violate his probation order. Of course he would. And he would begin serving his actual sentence for his crime. Now, he was originally, they said, set for 2018. But he had some dealings in prison, I'll put it that way, that may have gotten his sentence somewhat delayed. We'll get into that. While serving his sentence, Smith admitted to a physician that he sexually abused over 15 other children. They were ranging from the ages of 1 year old up to 13. He didn't even have any extra charges due to his admission. I'm only thinking maybe because nobody came forward and said it was me. Don't know, but nothing became of him confessing to raping 15 other kids. Now, these records were obtained by the Storm Lake Times. Now, Smith's likelihood of repeating his sexual offenses were good. They said it was above 20%. Now, number one, Smith had assaulted both male and female victims, so he basically didn't have any type of preference as long as it was a child. Number two, Smith also was young. He was 25 years old, so he had some time on him to think about what he did and maybe want to do it again. Who knows? Number 3, Smith had never been in a long-term relationship. Now, it could be because he was so young. That could be one of the reasons. Could be because he was into children. That could be another one of the reasons. It could be because he had spent a good time of his life in prison. Who knows? Number 4, Smith himself, unfortunately, was repeatedly raped as a child when he had turned 7. And he was living in Louisiana when this happened. I don't know if this was by a male or a female or both even. I don't know if this was a family member. They didn't really elaborate on it. But unfortunately, he was at one point in his life a victim. And then he would turn into the victimizer. Number 5, while in jail, Smith had multiple infractions of sexual nature between 2015 and 2018 when he was incarcerated. So that is why I believe he wasn't let out in 2018 like he probably would have been. Now, they said that Smith had a very high male sex drive. But now that he was identifying as a female, he was now being called a she and undergoing treatment for gender in October of 2015. Now, I have to add, when I first seen this article last year, it basically said that a man who had raped multiple children, about 18 kids, admitted when he was in jail to 15 of them, that he was going to get a sex change and he was being released because he was no longer a offender anymore because he was now identifying as a woman. And if anybody has ever looked at any of my posts, women could be sexual predators just as well as men. Doesn't really matter. So I was livid. Now, Lynn Hicks was a spokesman for the Ohio Attorney General Tom Miller's office. The state has to prove if a person will reoffend, and Smith doesn't meet the criteria as a sexual violent predator. Now, I must say, I believe when people think of a violent predator, they may think of a person that takes a child and beats them, maybe ties them up, maybe threatens them, maybe hurts them physically. The violent part. Have you ever thought that there are molesters out there that don't do anything violent? They're just as loving and as caring, but it's with a child. And they think that that's okay because they don't spark harm and they don't threaten. They may pamper the child and give the child whatever this child wants and protects the child. To me, that is still violent. You are violently in their head. You are messing with them emotionally and mentally. To me, that could possibly be even worse. You can heal from scars. It's hard to heal when you're being mentally and emotionally and sexually abused at the same time. So I really don't think that Smith doesn't meet the criteria as a sexual violent predator. Should have been even added to this. That's ridiculous. He was receiving female hormones. So basically, his testosterone levels was lowered and he was getting estrogen, a female hormone. So his testosterone was lowered. He had more female hormones. And so his sex drive wasn't as high. So this is why they believe that he will not offend. So unfortunately, Smith wasn't let out of prison because he wasn't going to offend again. He was going to be let out anyway because he had served his sentence. They actually said, quote, "She served her sentence," unquote. But Smith will still have to register as a sex offender in any state that he lives in. Wow. Just wow. So today, February of 2021, Smith is a free person.